to Speak Life, your uplifting Christian podcast with hot topics and inspiring special guests. I'm your host, Shane Franks. Hey guys, welcome to the episode. This episode is brought to you by Grant's Golf and More, from Casa and from Honey Baked Ham. Always want to give a shout out to our sponsors, and I'm glad to say today I've got a good friend of mine, Alan Smith, who's come to talk to us. And he walked straight in here into the office and was talking about a country song. What country song was this that you had in your mind, Alan?
It's Bigger Houses.
Bigger Houses.
And so it's fresh on my mind just because, like, I had to do a Sunday school lesson, not this Sunday, but the previous Sunday.
Yeah.
And that was part of my ending. My big finale as far as the lesson goes is I was singing the main core verses of the song.
You'll have to forgive me if I've not heard this. So it was good. It says dreams do not live in.
No. The thing about happiness I have found, it doesn't live in bigger houses.
It does not live in bigger houses. So I'm guessing that the moral of the story is it's not about what you've got, material wise. Is that correct?
Well, it was the big part of the lesson was the difference between joy and happiness.
Do you remember that? This is cool. I feel like we're on a radio station now having this discussion, but I'm liking it. Do you remember? I think it's Evan Almighty, where Morgan Freeman says that the happiest people go home smelling to high heaven every day.
But I think I've seen that movie one time, but it's been so long.
But it goes along with that. So, like we've got the American dream of thinking what would make us happy, like a big house and stuff like that, but it really ain't about that. Happiness is a choice.
Well, I mean, the lesson we was in was Philippians chapter 1, verses 1 through 11.
Okay.
And that's just where Paul was talking to the Philippi church.
Yeah.
As far as, and I'm not going to rehash the Sunday school lesson because I can't even remember.
It was your lesson. You can't remember your lesson?
It is, but, I have thoughts rotate in my head in and out so often.
Okay. That's scary.
I don't have photographic memory or anything like that.
Okay.
So I'm a repetition guy, but he was talking to the church, and he was talking, in a very joyful way. Like when he did that letter, he was in jail himself. Like he was detained. I don't know the level of jail. I don't know if it was ankle bracelets.
It was jail.
I don't know if he was chained to a wall. Like I don't know the status of it, but jail's jail. Being detained is being detained. And
it ain't fun.
And so when he's writing them, he was just talking about how how every time I think of you, it's so joyous, and like it's like that's you can't quote me on anything, but the expression he was giving.
All we need is the gist of it.
Yeah, it was. I think of you with such fondness, and every time that I think of you and you specifically,
I feel like you're quoting Song of Solomon.
No.
I know you're not, but
so specifically, I have to thank God because I remembered your name. And he was talking about everybody in that church.
Yeah.
From, I do know it mentions like the deacons all the way down to the lower status people and everybody in between, because he mentions the word all so many times. And so, like, I don't know if you know the definition of all, but the definition of all.
Before we discuss the definition of all, I guess that we can go ahead and come to the conclusion that he wasn't a Southerner, because there's no Y in the front of that.
Well, that's true.
Or else it would have been y'all.
That's true.
I wonder what translation that is. Is that the Villanelle translation?
It could be. I haven't spent a lot of time in the Villanelle. I know you have, though.
Can you tell?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't bring any of my farm animals with me.
But no, he just rehashes the word all many times. Like it's a small little word, but it's a really strong word. Like all, meaning leaving nothing or no one out. And so when he was referring to the church or the people in that letter, he didn't exclude anybody,
right,
due to status or whatever.
Which is what the Word of God is. It doesn't exclude anybody. It's for everybody.
Yeah. And so when I get to when I'm getting there towards the end of the lesson, really just I end it like this because I can't remember all of it. It wasn't that long, but I can't remember everything. But I end it like this basically. There's a movie.
Yeah.
It's called The Pursuit of Happiness.
Yep.
It's got Will Smith in it.
Mm-hmm.
Great movie. And somewhere in our Constitution, it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, and then that's where I go into the song title. Man, I wish I could remember the words to the song now.
The song means so much to you, but yet you cannot remember a sentence of it.
I did remember that sentence. I do remember more than one. I just can't remember them in order, but I will. Because I'm going to look it up right now.
Oh my gosh, are you going to sing it?
You're pressing me, so I'm going to
My guitar's behind you if you want me to grab it.
No. We ain't doing that. We don't need to do that.
Can't have fun for nothing.
Hang on. I've got it right here. And people who know this song will know the words. In my Sunday school class, they're so precious.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was just wanting to read it like I wrote it,
Yeah.
but they just had to have me sing it.
And
so
if you play that over this microphone, I cannot tell you if it's going to play out normal. So just be warned.
No, I'm just going to speak it because it's going to make a lot of sense here.
Okay.
So, there's always going to be a higher high that you could chase for the rest of your life. Greener grass in the yard next door, or a shined up Chevy, a little newer than yours. You're never going to fill an empty cup if what you got still not enough.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about happiness I found is it don't live in bigger houses. So I guess what Paul is getting at in his first 11 verses, which is totally my takeaway,
Yes.
is that life, liberty, and the pursuit of joy through Christ Jesus at the center of your life.
That's good stuff. I like it.
Yeah, I thought they come together really good.
I like it. I don't know many people that could take a scripture, a passage from Paul, intermingle some good yee-yee music, and wrap it up with a bow. So that's pretty impressive.
It's unique sometimes how it comes together, man. I was up at midnight trying to get that to come.
I have a confession to make. One of my favorite songs growing up was Alan Jackson's Small Town Southern Man. And if you sat there and just listen to the lyrics, like it's very deep. It's just pure. In other words, like describing this guy of what his responsibilities were, that he was a good steward of what had been given to him, and that he took full responsibility with the time that he had. And then at the end, it says, God came calling for that small town Southern man. And I think as men, that's the best that we could hope for.
Yeah.
So every day that we're living, we're kind of etching a letter on our epitaph of what's going to be left behind. And my head goes in morbid places sometimes. This last Sunday, our pastor here, Pastor Jamie, was talking about stewardship, and I got thinking about tombstones. Okay, and I got thinking about the fact of a lot of times we do things because we want people to think a certain way of us, and that's called reputation. Character is what God knows about us, but if we're lucky, when we die, we've got one full sentence that might be put on our tombstone. You don't even get really room for a whole lot past that.
That's true.
And then 200 years past that, after the rain and all the weather's come through, that piece of granite starts going smooth, and that slowly starts turning, kind of disappearing away too. But a little bit of Russell Crowe jumps out of me, and I'm still encouraged to remember that what we do echoes into eternity, whether or not the people remember us. But it's what God knows about us. And that's why it's so important that what we do, man, the Bible says, do it as unto the Lord, because he sees it all. Mm-hmm. Everything we do, everything we see, every idle word, it gets written down. And it doesn't go unnoticed.
I wish it did, though.
You wish it did?
Yeah. I'd have a lot cleaner slate if it did.
Don't you wish it was like an Etch-a-Sketch? You could just
give it a shake.
Yeah, give it a shake. Lord, I wouldn't have a history at all. It would just be once a day, shake, shake, shake.
Man, it's something else. And, you bring up tombstone. This might even be a good segue, because I don't see us getting through a lot today, because I'm going to put a timer on it probably till probably till about 5. So we got about 40 minutes here on this, but.
You don't tell me. This is my podcast. Okay, fine, whatever. You're the guest.
Yeah. Well, tentatively. So the tombstone. So you're right. Most people don't get a chance to have anything put on there, especially something that they would want to have on there. And so one of the biggest victories I have, and this is kind of telling this is kind of giving the ending away at the beginning. And then starting over at, like a good movie.
I tend to do that sometimes too.
Yeah, so like one of my biggest victories is just the forgiveness I've had with mom and dad.
Yeah.
Like when you put it simply, I just simply didn't grow up like all the other kids. When you combine all the neglect and the abandonment and the abuse and the violence and the drugs and the poverty and so on, when you combine them all in one spot like that, nothing comes out very normal.
Mm-hmm. Not what we consider normal.
No, that would be correct. And so as I've gotten through all my years, I'm 44 now for those listening. As I've gotten through all my years, like I've had to come through a lot of stuff that was in my heart.
Yeah.
You know, I wish it was just like a splinter stuck in my finger where you can just dig it out, give it time. But man, that heart's like a vacuum, man. It sucks stuff up in there, and it gets trapped, and it's so hard to get it out of there once it's there. And so
it is.
So that was one of the things that the Lord really worked with me on. It's just the forgiveness factor. And so,
can I ask a question?
Yeah.
And I know we're kind of going this thing half butt backwards. Before, whether it's the next episode or this one that we discuss your story, let's discuss what got you to the point for you to have the epiphany of, needing to find release and forgiveness of all of this.
Well, let me finish the tombstone story.
Oh, the tombstone story. Okay.
Yeah, I talk in stories. And so,
okay.
And
let's
so
finish the tombstone.
I'm going to do it like Trump. I'm going to just tell a bunch of stories and circle back around, and I'll get to my point.
You sound more like the Secretary of the Press. We'll circle back around to that.
Yeah. And so when it comes to the tombstone, right? So when I cared for mom and dad both until death. Like my primary role all these years was a caretaker, and so I took care of 2 drug addicts. And so I cared for them till death. Dad died first, and then it was mom. And so once they died, and then I started working on all the junk that was inside my heart and inside my soul and things I couldn't turn loose of. Once I finally was able to get there, I called Shelly. You know Shelly. She used to be with Dalton Funeral Home, and now she's over there
with
Hard Rock, I believe it is.
That's
Monuments. Right. And so I called up Shelly, and I was like, I need you to help me get a tombstone. I have an idea. And so she helped me out, and we got a one tombstone, both of them named like, how do I describe it? One a long one, and both of them have a
were they beveled or were they upright?
2 uprights.
2 uprights.
Individual for both of them. So
got you.
And so up above them, you talk about engraving something on there.
Yes.
It was such an overcoming thing for me.
Yeah.
That I wanted to put it in stone. So above both their names, I wrote "Forgiven."
Whoa.
And so if you go through the graveyard, the only tombstone that you'll find that has "Forgiven" on it will be that one of mom and dad.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a more nicer thing.
You wanted to be
for them to advertise, other than the fact that they did a lot of wrong in life. Obviously, Jesus forgives them, but to the world and those who might have looked down on them, at the end of the day, they were forgiven.
That's awesome, and that's deep.
Yep.
And Christ. I say Christ. Christ is the Word. But the Word of God in the Old Testament says, what does God require of us but to act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before our God? And it takes a lot of humbleness to forgive someone that would be easy for us to blame for emotional distress, feeling like things could have been different, feeling robbed of what we called normalcy. And I heard it said one time that to err is human, but to forgive is divine. That it takes a little bit of a supernatural power beyond our own to take that. Well, also here's another saying that anybody can take negative energy and add to more negative energy, but it takes a spot of genius to take that negative energy and to point it the opposite direction, with positivity. So it definitely takes God to enable us to do something like that, because within ourselves, with our human nature, it's almost impossible.
So you asked, what gets people to that point, or what helped me kind of get to that point? And I think with myself, and probably with just about anybody else, I think you're just ready to.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people circle the block on it. They'll circle the block and they'll look at this thing called forgiveness, and they'll look at the scenarios, and they'll think, I could never get past that. They don't deserve. They can go through the entire literature of the dictionary and come up with any word other than the forgiveness word. But I think it's just when they're ready, they got to circle the block. They got to get to the point to where they don't want to. I mean, I could tell you their story, but they got to get to the point to where they don't want to carry that around anymore.
Some people never do, though.
That's true.
Do you believe it was God priming you, preparing you for that intersection, whether you decided to take it or not?
I don't know if he was priming me or anything like that, because I mean, it happened one time before. This wasn't the first experience I had with this, so this was the second go around.
Yeah.
The first go around, it's just another long story. But if you want to dive into another long story, we can talk about it. But I'll make it pop if you want to.
Yeah.
So, you want me to?
You do.
You want me to tell another story?
Do your thing.
All right. So,
you're telling the story. I'm just a blank paper.
Yeah, this is going to get scattered. So, I'm in my early 20s.
Yeah.
Early 20s. And me and Dad had started you got flies buzzing around.
Yeah, it's like that Breaking Bad episode. I'm going to be chasing the thing around for the next 2 hours.
I never watched that show.
Yeah, back in the wild days before getting saved.
Breaking Bad is the wild days.
That's right. Don't tell nobody.
I won't tell anybody else.
Are they going to listen to this?
Yeah, somebody's going to listen to this and love it.
All right, Jesse, let's get cooking.
Yeah. All right, so back in my early 20s, me and Dad, we started a construction company. I'm a bricklayer by trade. I did it for 7 years, and Daddy was a
basically a brick mason.
Yeah, and Daddy
I never
was
pictured you as a brick mason.
I know. You would just never know.
You're just very sophisticated. That's all.
That's not it. That's not it. I'm just very unassuming.
Okay.
But yeah, I did that for 7 years. Daddy was a master mason. That's what he spent, his working career doing, is laying brick. And Papa, he was a mason too, and my great-grandpa was, so here I am, fourth generation. And so I'd laid brick for 7 years, got out of bricklaying, went to work at a grocery store. I needed to change. But Daddy showed up one day.
Yeah.
Like, during that kind of phase of my life, I was hoping Dad will never find me, but he found me. And then, like always, once he finds me, he's able to kind of sink his claws back into me again and lull me away from doing what I want to do or what I need to do, into doing what he wants me to do and what he needs me to do. And so I bought this guy out on some construction equipment. I took a loan out on my truck. Got about $10,000, bought scaffolding, scaffold boards, mud boards, saw, mortar mixer, the whole thing. And so my plan was to work at the grocery store second shift. And first shift, I was going to be on the job site, get anything set up, get anything moving, and then I could transition while they finished up the day. And so that was going to be my role. And that worked for like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
Yeah.
So was that it? No, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. My bad. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday on our first job. It was up there at Knob North, so that's big. It was a big house. It was a bigger house than what we should have started with.
You started off just right off the cuff. Just let's tackle this.
Yeah, let's just hit a golf course and build a $500,000 home.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could go wrong? Exactly. And so everything did. So the weekend came. All right, I paid everybody on Friday that had helped me. Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, I paid everybody after we got off work. And then Saturday, we were supposed to show up on the job and make a big run at it. Like we were doing a lot of blocking the wall because we had prepped the first 3 days to do that. So what had happened is come early Saturday morning, I went and go pick up a helper, and I was going to meet the rest of the people back on the job site. Well, when we get to the job site, nobody's there but me and my guy, and all my stuff is gone.
What?
So everything I just purchased 3 days later, basically, everything is gone, and so Dad stole it overnight.
Get out of here.
So
no, your father stole your stuff.
Yeah.
Basically stealing your dream and your investment.
Well, it wasn't my dream, but the investment, yes.
Well, I mean, you dreamed it up. I mean, I didn't call it a fantasy, but
I didn't have dreams back then. I had a means of survival.
Yeah.
And so that looked like a good way for me to survive because I knew what I could do on the job site. I knew what he could do on the job site, and it made more money than $12 an hour at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was just means for survival. So he stole all that stuff overnight. I had 2 cars. He took one of my cars, and he just got all my stuff. And so that left me in a bad spot.
I'm sure.
There I am. I'm broke, busted, and disgusted.
Yeah.
Can't find him. Can't find my stuff. And so that just leads me down a journey to where I'm trying to figure out.
Did any thoughts of violence come through your mind during this moment?
No. Because, I mean, I'd already been through too much. This was very discouraging, but it wasn't like I needed to get even with somebody. But I had to figure out what to do again, all over again. And so I did, 25 years old, sleeping on other people's couches, looking for a place to lay my head. It's not where I thought I would be, but that's where I was at. Lost my truck, lost the place I was staying at. I paid everybody what I owed them, and then I was eating food based off, how much it weighed, like the per ounce price at the grocery store, because I was just hungry. Yeah. And broken heart, and that was tough. That was tough. And I remember driving down the road. I was on the airport road, and I was turning left on the Tibbs over there, and I just it's like, dadgummit, I gotta forgive him. Yeah. And it was just a random thought, but it was there, and I was like, yeah, that's what I need to do. But in the meantime, I was still looking for my car. Right. My other car. And so,
did you report any of this stolen?
Hang on, it gets better.
Oh, interesting.
This story ain't over.
Oh, goodness.
And so, in search of my car, I find Dad. Dad's in jail. Yeah. For stealing, if you can find that hard to believe. But he was over at Walmart, got caught stealing, and so then I knew where my car was. Because he drove my car to Walmart, and he got caught stealing, and then my car was sitting out there in the parking lot. So I was like, boom, connected the dots.
So you stole your car back.
Yep. So I go to Walmart. So this one over on Sugar. It was a 1994 Ford Explorer. And I'm looking all over this parking lot, and I've got somebody with me too, so I have a witness, but this next part is entirely true. Like, I'm not even buttering this up. And so I can't find my car. I go into Walmart. They refuse to assist me with anything that happens out inside the parking lot. They suggest I call the police, which I do. So I called the police. And I was like, hey, my car's been stolen. I need help recovering my car. And so when the officer come out there, I tell him the story. Yes. I didn't tell him the story about, hey, my dad stole all my construction equipment. I told him, like, hey, my dad's in jail, and he was driving my car.
Right.
My car was in this parking lot, and now the car is gone. So therefore, the car that I belong has been stolen by somebody I do not know.
Yes.
And so he goes back to his car. He gets on his little walkie-talkie, and then he comes back to me, and he says, "Son, some advice for you." And I was like, "Okay, yes. Well, what do I need to do?" And he's like, "If you have any idea where your car might be, I suggest you do your own investigation.
Yeah.
We cannot help you. Have a nice day."
What in the world?
Yeah, you know, my tax dollar's hard at work.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your service.
Yeah.
Go write another speeding ticket.
Yeah. I mean, well, he might as well, because he wasn't looking for my car. So,
wow.
So I leave there. Okay, I leave there, and I make it up there to where the Zaxby's is and the First National Community Bank right there.
Yep.
I get right there, and guess what we see?
Probably your car.
My car coming the other way.
The other way?
We pass it.
Okay.
Right? We pass it, so I U-turn it in the middle of the bypass, and we get right in behind it, and we get stuck at the red light.
And then that
right
same
there.
policeman pulled you over and wrote you a ticket for speeding.
No. Hang on. Stay with me.
My story would have been cooler.
Stay with me.
Go ahead.
So we get up there to that red light, and I get out the car, and I'm smacking the side of the car. That way I just ain't sneaking up on a feller.
Yeah.
And so he sees me there, and I come up to the car, and I said, "Hey, dude," I was like, "This is my car. You know how I know? Because I got the deed and the title to it in my truck." And I was like, "You got this from my dad. My dad's in jail. I need my ride back."
Right.
He's like, "Hey, whoa, dude, whoa, we're in the middle of the road here. Let's get out of the middle of the road."
Yeah.
And so I said, "No problem. I agree with that." So I'm back in my car. We get through the red light there, and he turns it around, and he goes back down to the bridge.
Yeah.
Cross the intersection. I'm like, I wonder where this guy is going. So I called 911 back.
Oh my!
And I called him back, and I was like, "Hey, this is Alan. Remember I called in a few minutes ago about reporting my car stolen?" I said, yes, sir. What can we do for you?" I said, "Well, the officer suggested I do my own investigation, and that was the right thing. I found my car, and now I'm in pursuit."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Would y'all like to help me get my car now that I have found it, or do I need to do this on my own?" And that lady freaked out. She's like, "Stop pursuing. Do not chase." And I was like,
no.
I was like, "You've already turned me down once.
Right.
And he's not going fast. I'm just following him."
Right.
And I was like, "Would you like to help me recover my car?"
Exactly.
Since I've done all the work, basically. So
Maybe
and so and so I stay on the phone with him until they get to the road, which was near Underwood Road if you're going that way.
Yeah.
And he had a half circle driveway, gravel driveway. So he pulls into the driveway, and I'm on the phone. I read off the numbers on the mailbox, and I pull in there, and I get out the car, and I tell this guy, I was like, "Hey, dude," I was like, "if there's anything in this car that belongs to you, I suggest you get it out now, because the police is on the way."
Yeah.
And he throws both hands up, and he said, "Nothing is mine."
Oh my!
And he goes inside the house.
Yeah.
Cool, no problem. So I'm sitting there waiting on the police. They finally pull up. And I tell the police officer the story.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And he's like, "Where's this other guy?" It's like, "He's inside the house." So he goes over to the other guy. He gets him out of the house. He brings him up to me and introduces him to me.
Yes.
Like I needed the introduction. And he looks at this guy and asked him, he's like, "Son, do you disagree that this is the owner of this car?" He's like, "No, I don't disagree. This is the rightful owner of this car." And he looks at me and says, "Show him the title."
Yeah.
And I showed him the title with my name on it.
Yeah.
Then the officer said, "Son, you have your car back." And he looked at the other guy and said, "You're free to go. Go ahead and enjoy your day." And he says, "There you go. There's your car back."
Oh, thank you so kindly.
Yeah, he really negotiated that deal.
Yeah, that was
for me.
great.
So I look at the cop because now I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
I look at him and said, "Hey, dude," I said, "do you care to search this car before I take off with it?"
Right.
And he said, "Nope." He was like, I cannot do that. I cannot search your property."
You're giving him permission
Yeah, that's like
to search.
this
guy just don't like paperwork.
I'm just telling you what he said.
Yeah.
He was like, "I can't search your property." And he said, "But he He compromised it, but if you want to search it, I'll watch you search it.
Oh my gosh!
I was like, hey man, I'll take it.
Did he give you your paycheck, his paycheck at the end of the month?
No.
I mean, you did his job for him. So.
No. So I popped the back hatch on the Explorer, and when I popped the back hatch,
There's a dead body.
Well, you know.
I mean, because this is starting to sound like Breaking Bad. Because
it is exactly like Breaking Bad. Guess what I found in the back?
What?
A meth lab.
No.
Yeah, the mason jars, the muriatic acid, the piping, the spoons, the needles, everything.
So these still your 1994 Ford Escort, right? Explorer. Okay.
AKA the Exploder.
Okay. Yeah, the Exploder. And transform it. And how long was it missing?
I don't know. Month or two. Yeah.
Okay, and transformed it into a transformer, a Methatron. So
the Methatron. That's pretty good.
Thank you. I made that up myself. So basically turned into a rolling meth lab. So that's great.
Yeah. So the story's not over there.
All right. Let's hear the rest of it.
We'll keep on going. I told you we're going to have to do several sessions because once I get to storytelling,
it'll be all right.
We'll have plenty of content for sure.
That's why we're here.
So. And so once we discover the meth lab, he gets the guy back out of the house. He tells me to go sit on one side of the yard. He sits this guy on the other side of the yard. Now he's serious. It's like there's, red flag.
It's like he didn't take you seriously at first.
Nobody does. And so he calls it in. And I'm sitting over there, and the next thing you know, some big wide expedition comes barreling into the driveway, kicking rocks everywhere. And this officer jumps out in his, super tight, button-up, Stafford-looking shirt.
That sounds uncomfortable.
He had a couple of holsters, those shoulder holsters with two pistols.
One of the big dogs.
Yeah. I think he was DEA or something.
Right.
Who knows who he is? He had an attitude, is all I remember. He jumped out his car like he was the one in charge, and he probably was.
Yeah.
And he's like, whose car does this belong to? And I was like, this belongs to me. And he pulls out both guns.
Here we go.
And now I'm held at gunpoint.
Are you
hands
kidding
over
me?
the head. I'm at gunpoint, and I'm sitting there I was like,
was the other policeman not explaining the situation?
Come
on. He was there, right?
Did any of them really think it through?
Oh, my gosh. Like, literally, the words coming out of his mouth was, the car was stolen. Literally, it's just a few words.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm sitting there minding my own business now, my hands in the air.
Yeah.
While them two talk it over. And so finally, they conduct their own search. All right. So they're digging through the clothes and the paraphernalia and all this other kind of stuff. They get out a big bag of needles and, several spoons.
Yes.
And they finally, reholster their weapons, which I wasn't going anywhere.
Right.
And they come over to me and they're like, son, we want to let you know that you can have your car back. I was like, but we are taking these items, spoons and the needles.
That just broke your heart, didn't it?
I said, no problem. I said, what about the other stuff? And it's like, that other stuff doesn't belong to us. That's yours. Mm-hmm. I was like, what do you suppose I do with it? And they're like, son, we can't tell you what to do with your stuff. I was like, but that's a meth lab.
Right.
It's your meth lab.
Oh, it's your meth lab.
I was like, and I kind of see where this is going. I was like, all right. I was like, so what's to stop y'all from pulling me over as soon as I
quarter mile down the road?
As soon as I turn left out this driveway.
Right.
Because that's what it sounds like,
You know what I would have done? I would have emptied it out right there in that guy's yard, just drove off.
Well, if I was a prick, I probably would have. I'm not saying that you wouldn't have been justified doing that, but it didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, I understand.
And so they assured me that if I turned left out that driveway, that I would not be pulled over.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, about 3 or 4 miles down the road, it's like we'll call it in and you'll be fine. And I was like, so where do you dispose of a meth lab at? That was my next question. Where do I take this to? And it was like,
Is there a donation spot or something?
We can't. That's funny. We can't tell you what to do with your property, sir. All right. So I just take it to the dump. over there, and you're not supposed to dump anything out that's not in the bag, but
Right.
And I was so nervous, right?
I bet.
So I could, you can put your hands on mason jars, you
Yes.
can put your hands on popping and muriatic acid, and you can give
Yes.
that a chunk. But what I was nervous of is they had all kinds of old scattered clothes in the back, and I had to
You
get
don't
rid
know
of
when a
that
dirty
too.
needle's going to be sticking out or something.
I was so scared. I was like, "Dadgummit, I'm fixing to get AIDS." Those were my thoughts.
At
But-
least hepatitis.
so I deal with that.
Yeah.
All right. I still got this big broken heart, and
Yeah.
this was kind of like right after I had that talk with myself when I said, I'm going to have to forgive this.
Your dad
And-
got you in some crap, son.
Yeah, that was just one instance. And so what I decided to do, circling back around on this, what I decided to do is I found out when visiting hours were.
Yes.
And so a week or two later, I went up there on a Sunday to go visit him. He didn't know I was coming. And I went up there, and I'm sitting there behind the plexiglass.
Yeah.
And he comes out, and he's looking at me, and he just, because now he's sobered up.
Yeah.
Now he knows what he did.
Right.
And he starts to get a little bit emotional there, and it's just like you see on the movies. He picks up his phone, I pick up my phone, and he's, hey son, I'm sorry, and I just stop him. Stop.
Yeah.
And I was like, like this is going to sound unemotional coming from me.
Okay.
But it was emotional coming out of me at the time. But
Okay.
it was, why did you do this to me?
Yeah.
And I was like, do you understand I lost everything?
Yeah.
I don't have a car anymore. I don't have a place to live anymore.
Right.
I'm sleeping on other people's couches. And it's like, why did you do this to me?
Yeah.
And he didn't have an answer. And I knew there wasn't an answer. I knew it before I asked the question. There wasn't an answer. So I just continued.
It's kind of rhetorical.
I just continued with my statement. I said, and I stood up. Like I slid the seat back, and I just stood up. And I pointed at him. I was like, I can't carry this around anymore.
Yeah.
You don't deserve it, but I forgive you.
Yeah.
And I did it with all the mustard I could put into it. And he just started crying. I hung up that phone, and I just walked out. And as soon as I got back in the truck,
Yeah.
all my worries had went away. I felt peace again.
Yeah.
My mind was clear, lighter in my spirit. I was just ready to fix the mess that had been made and carry on with my life. So that was my first experience of a tough forgiving scenario.
I've always heard that
Yeah.
unforgiveness is a poison that does more damage to the vessel that's harboring it and holding it than it does the person it's intended for.
Yeah,
I believe there's a lot of truth to that.
yeah. Humans are resilient. We can endure a lot. We can carry a lot around, and it never kill us. So, but yeah, that's kind of what happened with that. And it's weird. Our format is really going to be scattered,
Well,
because that's kind of
All
a
I
middle.
wanna
That's a
know-
middle tier story.
that's okay. All I want to know is, what did you do with the Ford, with the Ford Explorer?
My sister ended up getting it, and
That was nice
and
of
she
you.
drove it. I can't drive two cars.
You can't drive two cars. Have you
I
ever?
can't put gas in two cars. I couldn't afford insurance on two
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah. So you gave your sister the mobile meth lab.
Well, after I cleaned it out and cleaned it up and took, yeah,
Yeah.
it was a good car for a while. It lasted.
Let's rewind the tape for just a second. And that moment that you forgave him, you put down the phone and you walked out. You said it was almost like an instant release. There's been times where like a wound has festered, and then I've heard people, and I've experienced this in my own, physical body as well, with an injury or whatever. That thing's just festered, with pressure, and it's like something just has to be released. And as soon as you do that, it's just wow. It's like, I wish I'd done this earlier. And can you go into a little bit more of a description of what you felt? Like, did it feel like a supernatural, just like something lifted off of you? Did you see God's hand in it? Let's talk about that for a second.
There's nothing supernatural that I can point to.
Okay.
And you have to keep in mind that back then in those days, I wasn't in touch with any emotion because I didn't have emotions back then. Like I was trained not to.
Wow.
And so if I had emotions, like that was an emotional moment, and I got a little emotional. But
it's interesting you're saying that you were trained not to have emotions, and your dad fell apart right on the other side of the plexiglass.
No, I trained myself.
Oh, you trained yourself.
It's different. Like you can see movies where like the Spartan movies, the 300 Spartans, know, and they want to train their kids to be big, tough, mighty warriors, and show no fear, show no pain, no weak faces.
Yeah.
I wasn't trained up like that, but I had trained myself not to show emotion because in my world, anytime that I showed emotion, no matter what, love, empathy, sympathy, anything like that, those emotions would just be used against me for their own selfish desires. And so once I kind of figured that out as a self-protecting mechanism,
self-preservation.
I just didn't show any emotion anymore.
Yeah.
So you can look at a kid and think he's just numb, but...
And I want to talk to a generation of men right there for a moment. I want to address something because I believe that's something that the devil has tried to cause men to hide and to think that we're weak if we show anything like that. But the thing is emotions are something that was given to us by God. And the reason why is because God does. We've got to put on our poker faces sometimes to get things done. We do, even as men. But at the end of the day, God also wants us to be transparent. And if we are transparent and we're open about certain things, one, it helps other people kind of understand us, and sometimes to help us out as well. Whether us as men, we think that we're full independent and in need of nobody. God created us to help one another. One hand washes the other, but also it gives an opportunity for someone else to be able to see maybe what you're either going through or what you have been through, what you're feeling, and to not feel alone in because they're going through the same thing. So I just feel like stifling that completely, governing it, muting that. I believe that has been a very successful tactic of the enemy in the past.
Yeah, I think it's important for people who have to carry around armor all day long.
Yeah,
like during those times for sure, where I was in such a survival mode.
Yeah,
that I wore that armor 24/7.
Right.
In and out of the home. And I think it's good for men to be able to know how to gird themselves up, carry that armor, step out and conduct business.
Yeah.
The problem lies is when there's no place for them to take it off.
Right.
There's never
there's got to be a safe place.
There's got to be some place for you to return to.
Yeah.
And so that was my problem. You talked about the poisoning aspect earlier. That's a problem too.
Yeah.
If you don't have a safe place to take that armor off, then you're just stuck carrying it, and then your load becomes heavy, and you can only.
Well, I mean, it's like during the Vietnam War, a lot of the troops ended up getting foot rot or whatever because there has to come a time where you take your stuff off. Air gets to you, you get a chance to kick your feet up, because we like to think of ourselves as beasts that that don't need a rest, but that's not the way that we were created. On the seventh day, God created rest for a reason, and I think it's very important that we as people that we do rest up so that way that we can properly help somebody else out as well, not just heal ourselves.
Yeah, I'm very emotional and transparent and forthcoming, and in the right environment.
Yeah.
But until I hit that environment, you're going to get the, I hate to even say it like this, but you're going to get the character I create.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's people cope with different problems different ways. It's like the movie Split, you know.
Oh, I love that movie.
That is a
He's done
good
a great
movie,
job.
man. The psychology in that thing. But like this person created characters because of a situation. That's what a lot of people, you know, with that disorder do. But you did it in, you know, what you had to do for self-preservation. You did it in a rather healthy way, and you know, you've learned what, like you said, the person you want people to see, because you've learned through your what you've been through, that before people are in that inner circle, or what I call almost like the holy of holies, you know, us being you know, a tri-made person, that those people have got to earn that. It's not just given. So does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, the people that you feel safe around, it's always going to be a small number.
And I feel like as I get older, it definitely gets smaller. And I feel also that the more that God has for me to do, that it gets even smaller. And sometimes our calling is a lonely place. It is. But, you know, we've got to do what we've got to do. We've got to make sure that everybody that's in our lives, we do have to have areas of influence where we can be there to try to mentor other people. But that, you know, that very inner circle, we have got to be very cautious and very picky of who we allow in there, because those people have, you know, access to all of the buttons to your heart, you know, and to your emotions. And when you hear people say that person's pushing my buttons, well, literally that's what's going on. You've possibly you let them in too close. And I'm not saying that you become, you know, recluse and you just shut everybody out and be like the man from Snowy River and go join the mountains, which sounds amazing, honestly. But, you know, you still have to be guarded too, because I've always told people that you have two different kinds of people in your life. You have sails and you have anchors. Some people are going to anchor you down and you're not going to be able to get to where you need to be. But some people are used by the Spirit of God, and it just blows you right to where you're supposed to be heading. So we just got to pray for discernment, that we know the difference. Sometimes it's kind of hard to distinguish between the two. Because, like you said, I mean, people are really good at hiding it sometimes. So,
I don't disagree.
Yeah. Well, is that all for your story today?
Oh, I don't know. How much more time we got? Oh,
Yeah.
It basically is. Hey, I did come bearing gifts today.
What gifts? What that better not be a mobile meth lab you're pulling out of your pocket.
It did. Hang on.
All right. Well, let's make sure that nobody videotapes this. What you brought me?
Breath mint.
You brought me breath mint spray.
That's right.
Alan, when we met the other day, he pulled this out of his pocket, not the same one, and like used it, and I've not seen that stuff for years. I remember it being longer and skinnier. Rick Harris, one of my mentors growing up and a good teacher, always remembered he had this in his pocket. But like, I've not seen this stuff forever. And matter of fact, hold on, let me use some of this, because I ate some spaghetti a little bit. Oh, wow. That is just as strong as I remember it.
Yep. I want to do you.
Alan, thank you. Where'd you get these?
Oh, that's a Amway product.
Oh, an Amway product.
Yeah.
You still involved in that, brother?
I do. I still have my numbers and stuff for it.
I got you.
I'm no longer active in the business building portion of it, so I still like a few of their products, and so I have those.
Well, I have not tried their breath spray, and I promise you this has not been brought to you by that company. But you know what? There's nothing worse than having a good conversation with somebody and they just get a little bit too close, and you can smell what they had for lunch. So
yeah,
I appreciate it. Is that why you just handed it to me?
No.
Are you sure? Are you sure?
It's because you made such a big deal about me having breath spray in my pocket. I figure since I have 5 of them at home, I might as well.
I will use
bring
that.
you one. And these interviews and meeting people and doing, to me, strange things like this, for the first time, it's good to come bearing gifts.
Well, my future guest, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's it for today. And guys, I appreciate y'all listening as always. And I hope you enjoyed a part of Alan Smith's story, and we'll have him back on so that way that he can tell the rest. Alan, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. And those listening, I do want to add in there that this is our first time doing, this is basically my first time doing something like this. I'm more of a public speaker than I am sit behind a microphone and give a long, drawn out story. So this is a bit to what I'm used to. It is very what's the word?
It's a new skill.
Well,
development.
it is a new skill. It's not very controlled, and and I'm having.
I'm going to tell y'all right now, Alan. Most of my, the people I talk to, they're like, yeah, sure, let's do this. Alan wanted to sit down and have a meeting, ask a couple questions. He wanted to make sure he wasn't just venturing into the unknown. And I can tell that Alan's a very planned out person, and me, I'm just kind of fly by the seat of my pants. But I appreciate Alan, you coming out of your normal environment and doing it a different way.
Yeah. So maybe next time when we get together, we'll actually start at the beginning of all this.
Well, heck, let's just start in the middle.
Start in the
let's
middle.
Roll right into a mobile meth lab that you'll give to your sister.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Well, guys, thank y'all for tuning in. God bless. Speak Life has been brought to you by Whitfield Murray Casa. Would you like to encourage a child in foster care? You can make a real difference in a child's life and help them thrive by becoming a CASA volunteer. Court-appointed special advocates are child-focused volunteers, especially trained to support and protect the best interests of kids in foster care. You can become part of the local team of good neighbors by joining the next volunteer training. Call Murray Whitfield Casa or visit Murray Whitfield Casa on Facebook. If you're looking for a unique, child-focused volunteer opportunity, this is it. And by Grant's Golf and More. For Dalton's best selection of golf supplies, come to Grant's Golf and More. All of your top brands for clubs and equipment from pre-owned to brand new, including strips on balls. You can be fitted on site using their state-of-the-art golf simulator. Grant's Golf and More is also your go-to for trusted club repair, conveniently located on Cleveland Highway in Dalton Village Shopping Center. And also by Honey Baked Ham, the perfect place for your holiday party trays, office parties, gift cards, family holiday dinners. Honey Baked Ham is a great place for a quick lunch. Also come in and grab Honey Baked Ham's Take and Bake sliders. Your family will be thankful you did. Honey Baked Ham can be located on West Walnut Avenue, Dalton, Georgia, and Brahmans Plaza, or call 706-277-4966 to place your order.